Okay, the next is the RefreshSheets subroutine, and this subroutine is also called by the main getNewData subroutine. So the getNewData subroutine is our main program, and within there we're using these different smaller programs like that we've written, like what was it? Their last one was getUnitsLeft and getRank and so on. So they're all being called inside here. So this is kind of our main program, and the RefreshSheets subroutine is also called there. Okay, now before we look at this, let's go back and recall what we did to get the data from Amazon and get it into Excel. Let's check that out again. So we had this section called Query Sheets, and he said if you haven't used Excel to retrieve data from the web, you might be surprised at how easy it is. Okay, so let's go back and do that again. So I'm going to just get a different web page just for something new, and I'll put it on a different sheet. So let's go to the sheets, and let's say I want to get something from a website called TripAdvisor. Okay, let me just show you that page anyway. So this is the TripAdvisor site, and you can put in a city like Tokyo, and you can put in some dates like and you say find hotels, and it gives you a list, and you can click on one of them, and you get all of this information here, like the traveler's rating in different categories, number of stars that it got. That's the hotel class. In terms of ratings, there's excellent. 771 people rated it as excellent. 135 rated it as very good. Nobody rated it as 8 people rated it as terrible. And here you get the individual experiences. So this person rated it as 5 stars or 5 dots, highest, and you can read their review. You can click on more to see the full review, and the reviews are sometimes quite long and involved. And over here you also have ratings per and categories. So suppose I want to copy this and maybe capture some data on it later. But one thing that's going to be tricky for this site, which you'll have if you wanted to work with this site, you'd have to figure out a way for your code, well, to go to the next page. Like this is the first page, to go to the next page, and so on. That might be tricky to do, but you might be able to figure out how to do it. And that's only though if you wanted somehow to collect all the ratings. But actually we have all the ratings, so you don't really have to do that. But anyway, these numbers probably won't change very often, so this may not be that interesting to collect on a repeated basis, right? These are probably going to be close to the same over the entire time of our class, so it may not be that interesting to capture it like every day or every hour, because it'll be the same or almost the same. Now what you could try to do, although it might be harder, is get well, one thing you could do, it wouldn't be over time. So one thing you could do maybe is get something like each hotel name and its overall rating, which is here. Now this might be tricky though, because you'd have to, this is not a number, right? These are dots, right? So how do you read that? That might be hard to do. Now if you look at the let's see, I look at that, and here it is. Alt is 4.5 of 5 stars. So maybe that should be in the... no. That won't... I don't think we'll capture that if we do the query in Excel. But we can check it and see whether this would get captured into our spreadsheet. I don't think it would be, though. Somehow you might figure out a way to capture this kind of information. This is like the HTML of the page or whatever. In that case, you could get this number, 4.5 of 5. And then you could do that for each hotel. That might be, from that data might be interesting, and you might try to do something with it. But I don't know if this website will be the best site for you to focus on. If we're doing something similar to the code that we already studied, we want a page that changes frequently, like every day or every hour. Every hour would be better. This kind of data doesn't change frequently, but it could be interesting from another point of view. You may try to look for a relationship maybe between the number of reviews and the measure of the hotel, the overall measure. This is the overall measure. So you could try and look for a relationship between those, or you could try and build some kind of model that tries to take the average review versus the price. But I think that model would be a little bit not quite well thought out, but there are ways that you could think about it a little more. But you could do that. You could also maybe look for a relationship between these numbers and the price, or these numbers and the average of these numbers, or something like that. Now, of course, I don't mean the average of these numbers. I mean, you could assign, say, excellent, give it 5 points, this one 4 points, this one 3 points, this one 2 points, this one 1 point, and then take how many excellent there were, how many very good, and you'd have to divide by something to come up with an average of this that made some sense, probably. Now, my research is mostly based on what we call text mining as a kind of data mining, and I would look at this text here, or I might look at the whole text, and try and use the words in here, try and build some kind of model between the words in here and the price, or the words in here and the overall rating of the hotel, something like that. Now, they used to give an overall rating for the hotel. Now they seem not... Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is the overall rating. So you don't have to take the average of these in that case. This is the average rating. In fact, here's a number. 91%, ranked number 1 of 84, 91% positive. Okay, so this number, if you could capture it, would be a good number to use, and you might use this. You might try and predict this number based on other things. Like what I would do is, in my research, is try to use the data in here. I'm sorry, the words in there, the text in there, to somehow and build some kind of model based on words to predict this. Or you could go a different direction. You could use this to predict the price. So that would be interesting, but I think that you'd want to think about it a little slightly different than that, because there's something doesn't quite make sense about this versus price, because people might give a very high rating because it's pretty good, but it's very cheap. So that means that this versus price is not quite what you'd want to do. So you'd have somehow you'd have to adjust that a little bit. but you could do that. You could look for, anyway, you could look for different kinds of relationships here. So, okay, now, so let's get this data. That is, let's download this web page into our Excel sheet. Let's see if we can do that, to review how that was done before we look at this RefreshSheets subroutine. Now, don't forget though that if you wanted to get all the reviews, for example, you would have to somehow figure out how to go to the next page here. So you'd have to think about that. You'd have to look, try and get some help on the web about how to do that. Look it up and see what kind of Visual Basic VBA code you could use to go to also get the next page and the next page and the next page, that kind of thing. Right. So if I click on here, there's another page, right, of reviews. That's if you wanted to get these reviews. So going back to here, open a new workbook and rename it. So I gave mine a name. Next, start your browser if necessary and navigate to Amazon's webpage for that book. When you're there, copy the page's full address from the browser address box and switch back to Excel and click the Ribbons Data tab. Click from the right. Okay, so let's do this now. Okay, so I have the sheet. Now, before I do that, I want to show you something. So, because I'm going to do it after we do it, you'll see this will look different. When I right-click on here, what are the list of things here? So these are just a list of options that we have. But I want you to notice that there's nothing about queries in here, right? You don't see anything about queries in here, right? Okay. But after we finish doing what we're going to do, you will see something in there, and that's going to be important to notice. So let me go back to here, and I'll go up. You can't see what I'm doing, but copy the URL. I just copied the URL. And let's go back to here and go to Insert. No, where was it? Sorry, it was Data and From Web. And make sure that we will always want to start on A1. If you don't do that, everything's going to get messed up. So always make sure that you've selected A1 first. And this is what we did before, but this time, and now I'm going to put in this hotel. Click Go. Now it gave me a script error. I think that was from Microsoft's page, MSN, whatever it's called, MSN. There's some, like, I don't know, there's some technology on here, like a JavaScript or something, and this Excel interface can't handle it. So it says, do you want to continue running the script? Just click No. I think it's better. Okay. And now it's going to go, hopefully, to the page we want. It takes a little time, but it goes there. I don't know why this came up. Hopefully that won't interfere. Okay, so we did that. So it says typically you'll see one or more square icons, and and it says you can see where the tables are. He says, I recommend you select the entire page. So let's do that. So I think it's this one here, which will select the entire page. Okay. In fact, on this page, I don't see any other arrows. Well, here's one down here, but virtually none. So, seems like that's the only one you can select. Let's see if it works. Then he says after you've clicked the yellow icon, turn it to green. Click the Import button at the bottom of the New Web Query window. So it did turn to green. And import. Takes some time, but eventually we get this. He says accept the default destination cell A1 and click OK. But before you click OK, let's check the properties. here. Let's check that. Save query definition. Let's do that so that we can, that's the whole point of being able to refresh it. Enable background refresh every, but we're not going to refresh. Actually, that might be an interesting option. If we refreshed every 60 minutes, maybe we wouldn't need, maybe you can check with this and see if it makes sense. I don't know why he didn't do it, but maybe he has an older version where he doesn't have this capability, but it says refresh every, or maybe, I'm not sure if we're going to need to keep the workbook open. Probably, yes, we do. Anyway, so you could experiment with that, see if you might be able to avoid some code by using that. But anyway, refresh data when opening the file, data formatting and layout, adjust column width. If the number of rows changes upon refresh, insert cells for new data, delete unused cells. Insert entire. Okay, let's leave it. Okay. Build down formulas in columns adjacent to data. Alright, so let's leave this as OK and click OK. And now it's going to retrieve that. Actually, though, in the meantime, he said don't use this. He says requires explanation. If it is filled, any VBA procedure that is running continues running as the query executes. Right? We didn't want to do that. So, okay, here's what we have now. Now I forget if that box was checked or not. But anyway, let's right-click on here, and now we have that, and we have this. And they weren't there before, if you recall. There was nothing about edit query, for example. I don't think refresh was there either. But let me edit the query and import again. No, I think I need to click this first before I import. Let's try that. Nope, that wasn't it either. I need to get back to, I want to change the properties of the query. That's over here. Properties. So I enabled this, so I don't want to enable this. I think that will be okay, hopefully. I should have done that from the beginning, but I didn't, so hopefully this will adjust it properly. Okay, so anyway, now we have the data, and we have all that stuff. Okay, now what I basically wanted to show you was that, again, if you right-click on here, we have some new items here. And what that means is on a regular blank sheet, this is a blank sheet, you don't have that. In other words, on this sheet, on the TripAdvisor sheet, you have kind of new code in here, even though you can't really see it. There's some code in here, or there's some new functionality in here. We say there's a query object in here, and we've talked a bit about what, this word object. Anyway, there's a query object in here, okay, which wasn't here before. Okay, with that idea in mind, let's go back to where we were in our discussion. So I'll stop here and come back to it next.